So let's just start with your introduction. Tell me about yourself, how you started your story.
Well, my name is Beth Silver. My company is Debate Consulting, and we work with entrepreneurs, small business owners, and authors on marketing and PR and business strategy.
Could you describe a key strategy for creating a resonant brand identity?
Yes, I think a key strategy for creating a resonant brand, identity is really building a strong foundation and knowing who you are. It really is why. Why are you in this business? Why are you providing this service? What is your authentic self and why are you doing this? Is it to solve a problem for other people? Is it because it's just a passion project? What is it that you are really trying to do? And from then, you're able to then build the brand that you're trying to introduce to others.
Okay, amazing. So, what if a beginner want to start a marketing service company or anything, or if he want to start from scratch, what he should have to do?
I
He,
think the
he have to-
I think the first thing that someone needs to do when they're marketing their business is really understand what are they offering, and then what is the mission that they're trying to achieve, and then from that, what is your website going to look like? What is your logo going to look like? What is your social media? How are you reaching out to those people to educate them on who you are, what differentiates you, and more importantly, how you're going to solve their problem. And by knowing that, then you're building those breadcrumbs. I always say to new business owners, give yourself 2.5 years because it's not going to happen overnight. And that's really it, because you're dropping little breadcrumbs of information for people to follow. And that's how, or a snowball effect. You're really having people understand and build the story with you.
Now we can move on to the SEO side. You can share your own or the best strategy we can use for websites in terms of SEO.
The best thing for a website SEO, keywords are vital, but really content is king. It really is about what is the information on your web pages? What are they learning about you? How many times are you repeating those words of what you do on your website? And is it giving that cohesive story? Then, how are you updating your website? What are you doing? Because the more information you're able to give, the more Google will come back and visit you. It's like a neighbor. But then, if you're not giving that information, you're not going to be searched, and people aren't going to find your value. I mean, I have clients that we've built websites for that have so much rich content that they have moved up the rankings. And then I have others that have bought keywords and you can see that don't have such a solid foundation on their website yet, and you can see the difference. So yes, having the meta tag descriptions and that right information and all the nuts and bolts that you need to have search engines be able to understand what you're saying. But it really is, what are you offering, and are you clearly articulating that on the web? And that's so important.
Amazing, amazing information. So let's move further. How can marketer better engage neurodiverse audience through tailored campaigns? Or we can say, how important is omnipresence for a brand?
So, neurodiversity, everybody in my opinion is on a spectrum, whatever it is, and there's different ways that people learn, communicate, and understand. So when you're engaging with neurodiverse audiences, whether they are more visual learners, whether they're more auditory, hearing, whether words are easier, whether you're really understanding what needs to go on. And sometimes it's the font, sometimes it's color, sometimes it's the amount of busyness of sensory overload. It really is understanding. And if you have a product that is either created by a neurodiverse entrepreneur, someone who might have, ADHD or autism or dyslexia or trichotillomania or RFID or whatever it might be. And that's who they are, and how they're offering their value proposition may be very different. Or you have created a product for those audiences. It's really understanding, where are they located? How are they gaining that information? What makes the most sense? In marketing, people say there are personas. When you're looking at your clients, you're separating people by the persona. It's also understanding, especially when you're targeting neurodiverse audiences or you're being a neurodiverse entrepreneur yourself, it's understanding, you know, who is your main persona, and then who are those ancillary personas that'll be maybe helping those people better understand. Right. I have an autistic son. I am very involved in different influencers and websites and products that may help my child or may help other children or adults that I know. So it's you never know who you're targeting and who you're reaching with your product. So it's always important to remember that everybody learns and communicates differently. And by understanding that, it's a win-win.
Okay. So here we just learn how we can start acquisition of our customers. Let's move to the next step. How we can maintain this the customer base and keep them engaging. What are those core vital tips and tricks that maintains audience with and brand?
I think that authenticity and knowing who you are is really important. Um, you know, Marketing is the lifeline of a business. It really is. Whether you intentionally try to communicate or not intentionally try to communicate, you're communicating. So I think it's so important to make sure your story is known, and make sure that every interaction that you have, whether it's through customer service, whether it's in your store or online or through social media, is marketing, and people talk. And that is, I have a friend, we go to a local store in our area, and she had an interaction. She didn't like how someone was treating an employee and said something. And she didn't like how the store management reacted to her defending their employee. And she called me. Well, guess what? That's two negative interactions with a store that really interacted with one. So then I went into the store because I know the store, and I spoke to one of the managers, and I said, "What happened here? Who is this person?" And the answer was, she had a bad day. It's not always like that. No, that. And I then could go back to my friend and said, what happened was horrible. What happened was deplorable. Thank you for defending the employee. But just so you know, this human is not a bad human. And to me, that is a great marketing experience, because my friend couldn't believe that it was this way. And I cleared it up, as best as I could. And that's marketing. People don't realize that. So when you're looking at ROI, lead generation, it's not just about a newsletter or a Substack or social media follow. It's sometimes those conversations or emails that people don't expect that can actually be stronger for a brand. And that's so important.
And I completely agree with this point. You just mentioned ROI here. So let's talk about ROI now. How we can maximize this?
You know, ROI is a very generic term, because what is that return on investment? Is it a
Okay.
customer? Is it a sale? Is it a referral? So it's, when I'm looking at, ROI, I'm looking at, platform specific strategies that leverage, whatever that analytic is. So it's understanding your audience and spending that time to tailor the content to that platform. And whether it's social media, then maybe you're experimenting with different types of posts or videos or infographics or carousels, or maybe it's a website. You're testing different pages and different languages, type of language. Maybe it's networking opportunities. You're going to different places, and I think at the end of the day, as long as you're testing the authenticity of what you're doing and how you are consistently mixing storytelling and educational content, and that's really important, and you must be authentic. Like, I love talking to people, I love helping people. My Instagram handle is Beth Would Know, because I love finding out how to help someone, you know and when I meet a potential prospect or a client or whomever it might be, they may not be ready for me now, but in my mind, I know they may call me one day or they may not, or they'll tell someone else. And it may be in a year, it may be 2 years, but for me, that's my authenticity. Is my social media the most up to date? No. No, I'm really too busy working on my clients and let my clients be my mouthpiece, which is funny because I have a huge mouthpiece. you know so it's important to really understand who you are and what your brand is, and then it'll all fall through. So ROI really is, what is the return on the investment that you're looking for in this place. And if you're not there yet, what's one that you can make to get closer? What are those, big ideas? What is the planning? What is the systems? Because it's all systems. And what is the right system
Yes.
for you?
Beautiful answer. So let's move further. Now, this is the age of AI, and many people are shifting to AI, and many startups are now moving toward AI.
Yep.
How startup or even any startup can grow with marketing, whether it's social media, it's SEO, it's PPC.
Well, I think there's always been different types of AI over the years, whether it's Canva or ChatGPT, or even, you know, um, the automated, voicemails of the past that we didn't even know were called AI. So I think that when a entrepreneur utilizes these things, it's great to see what AI can do and how it can maximize the system. But at the end of the day, I hope AI is used to help you be more creative and help you be more productive and more organized and more systematic, because that is where you want to make sure you're still hitting that point. And I think, look, Grammarly, Canva, ChatGPT. I mean, there are imagery, AIs that I don't even know. But I think it would be foolish for, you know, an entrepreneur not to look at that. But it also would be foolish for an entrepreneur not to say, wait a minute, this replaces my accountant, my marketer, my SEO, because it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, the computer and the program does not have the emotions unless you tell them to have the emotions, and they may not have the empathy, and they may have the word, they may and I think that is the understanding. So as we kind of look of, yes, there will be things that systems take over. But at the end of the day, you always want to make sure, and you go back to the beginning, am I being authentic? Am I saying this? Or how can I be smarter? Um, I had a doctor's appointment and I went to AI and I said, these are the questions that I had. I was a ChatGPT. What questions did I forget? And they gave me a couple of questions, and I go, oh, I had that on my list. I didn't have that on my list. Again, it doesn't mean that I missed anything. I was trying to cover all bases, but I wasn't trying to take away from my support system, the people I know, and the same with business. So I think it's really important to understand, as with any new medium. Remember when there were car phones? Well, maybe you don't, but I remember there were car phones like in the actual cars, and now there are phones, in our hands, and even smaller. So it's important for us to really understand that in order to move technology along, and you also have to move humanity with it. To really question those things.
Okay. Amazing. So what I get is whatever the technology is and will be in the future, we have to be authentic and we have to our own self, right?
Yes, because I think in successful businesses, successful products, you see their passion and you see their authenticity, and who you gravitate to is very different. The entrepreneurs and businesses that I gravitate to are very different than the entrepreneurs and businesses my children may gravitate to, or my clients. But the beautiful part is we're all able to learn because we communicate as to who those people are. So, and one day, an entrepreneur that might have been on the fringe is, now not. So I think it's really important to be like, oh, and that's why we all have different, tastes, and we have different hobbies and different understandings. And that's why we are so fortunate that, there isn't one type of marketing. Like there isn't one type of, of anything. There are subsets, and finding the right partner is so important. I represent an author, and they're a children's book author, and we were looking for digital marketing partners, and I interviewed a lot of different people, and I found 4 people that I really loved, and one of them, it was a project, the situation imploded before it began. And I was like, great, not the right personal interaction, not going to work. One of the other people was an agency that my client wasn't ready yet. We weren't ready yet. And I remember I called the agency and I said, we really like you. We're not ready yet. But I promise when we get our act together, we're going to call you. And 1 year later, we did. The other 2 people we actually tried out, and we realized, you know, they're talented. They understood, not exactly what we were looking for, because we needed to look some more at our authenticity. But today, we're actually, got our act together, learned what we needed to do, and was able to hire that agency because we were ready. And that agency and I were talking last week, and they're so grateful that we had the self-awareness and the authenticity of, oh, you're right, didn't have it. And I will tell you now, we've learned so much and we've done. So it's an amazing opportunity to watch brands and businesses grow, because a brand and a business are very different. Very different. A brand is what you're offering. A business is the actual structure of how that brand is being offered to the world. So if your business is not ready, your brand is always going to be wobbly.
Okay, so we are discussing about team, and can you elaborate more how important is a team and how we can manage our teams and do partnership well?
I think you can't build a business by yourself. Even if you are a one-man show, you can't. You need a support system, whether it's paid or unpaid. And I think, the best advice that I was ever given was in 2000, when I was first beginning my business. And the question that I was dealing with was, do I get a real job or do this on my own? As though this wasn't a real job. And the consultant that I hired, or the career coach that I hired, said to me, there's a book called Strength Finders 2.0. And it is a book
Okay.
that is based upon the key strengths of entrepreneurs and what they do naturally. And I took that assessment. I'm trying to see if I still have it here. I normally keep it on my desk, but it's the 5 key signature strengths. And I think I took it on September 14th, 2000. And from this day, I still use those key strengths. And I remember what I'm not very good at, what I don't love. I don't love looking at my financial numbers. So I have a great bookkeeper and an accountant. I don't love, making sure that I organize my schedule. So I have a great virtual assistant. You know, I love connecting with people. So I make sure on my schedule every day. So it's important to not only know what you do well, but know who are the people that are going to fill in those holes for you and making sure that they have people that fill in their holes and understanding and being communicative of, this is what I need. This is how I can help. This is how I want to grow. So that's how you build a great team. And if you have, a member who may have a different lens on life, whether diagnosed or undiagnosed, or they learn differently, or they like light, or they like dark, or they know that, because that helps them be better at what they do. Because at the end of the day, it's not me being my team being the best that they can be, and knowing that. I have a client that hates social media, hates it. So when we hire people who handle our social media for them, I'm very honest, and I said, they hate social media, so they don't automatically like what you find as a passion. And what we've been able to do is, what do you like to talk about? What do you like about social media? What can we make better? How can we improve? So it's understanding. In some cases, I lead the team. In other cases, I'm a member of the team that people know about. In other cases, I'm a member of the team that people have no idea I exist. And it's knowing how you can go in and out and in and out, and how that works. And it's and also know that you may have to leave a team to come back to a team. Sometimes you're not the right person. That's okay. It's not forever. It's not, it's not a breakup. It could be a pause. And if it is a breakup, bye. See ya. Thank you for your time.
So what I am asking is how can manage and solve conflicts between customers and in teams, and how we can solve them, and what are the better ways.
As, a crisis communication. Where was the mistake? How did it go wrong? And by the way, it may not have gotten wrong on your side. It may have been wrong from their expectation, their interpretation. I ordered a coat a few weeks ago, and the coat arrived. I was so excited. The coat arrived, and then there were feathers coming out of my coat. So I called the customer service, and I went to, 4 or 5 different places, on the customer journey, and they sent me a new coat. And the coat's the wrong color, and it's the wrong style. And I called them back again, and I said this, but they had me mark on my coat that it was damaged. So I automatically now have a coat that's damaged, and I'm waiting for a new coat. And as I'm dealing with this, in their mind, they're like, "Oh, we don't have that coat anymore." And I'm like, "But I just bought the coat." So obviously I bought an old style that I didn't realize I bought. And it was under warranty because I only had it for like 30 seconds. I should have returned it, and I should have done all these things. And as a marketer, I love the experience. As a person, I'm like, I need to buy another coat. I'm annoyed. I need to get this back. So the company is doing everything they've been programmed and taught to do. But I'm saying, oh, and I used to have this coat under another brand. I don't know where the coat went. So I'm heartbroken for my coat, but there's a conflict, and I don't think there's going to be a happy resolution. You know, for the teams inside that company, they probably think I'm a pain in the butt. I keep on calling back. I want, there is that conflict. So that's important. So it's really also understanding where your customers are feeling annoyed. If you're having a conflict and you're a solopreneur, with a client and it becomes frustrating, or there's anger or frustration, you say you lose your temper, say they lose their temper, it's stopping for a minute and say, whoa, what was the antecedent? What was the trigger? Where was my behavior or their behavior in this? And how can I change this? And is there a boundary issue? How do we do this? How do I get the emotions out of it? So sometimes it's really looking at yourself as a person, yourself as a leader, yourself as a business, yourself as a brand. And that's on both ends. Like, how are you hitting it on the products? And if there's a crisis communication involved, what's the plan? How is it going to affect other people? And it's often the hardest part, because a good business owner realizes they're never always perfect. And sometimes, it's the realization that you may not be the right partner anymore. They may not need your service anymore. They may not want to do this anymore. There are some clients that are like, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, then don't do it. Some, or I want to do it, but I just don't see your value. And I have lots of clients that, will go on pause, and then something amazing will come on my desk for them. And I have a choice. Do I call them and say, "Oh, guess what? I have an amazing opportunity for you." Or do I just throw you away? I call them and I tell them. And 9 out of 10 times they say, "How about I hire you for a few hours and you take care of it for me?" Okay. Because if they don't see the value and they're not ready, they're not. But they still might love you. They still might want you. They still might, so it's important to understand that it may not be now for you. And that's okay. It's, or someone may feel you don't have the right to, okay. It's not always personal. And I was once taught that when, a person has a problem, it's, is it something an invoice can fix? Like, I got a problem. Okay, it's something an invoice can fix. If you don't want to pay that invoice, it can't be fixed. And I actually think it was the best advice I was ever given, because when I get emotional, I go, "Oh, it's their invoice. They either gonna want to pay this invoice or not." It's okay. It's not personal.
So actually, I am very, very amazed by all of your answers, and I just like let go the script that I want to. I have for question.
Yeah.
Because you have a very, very broad experience and you know many things and many aspects of marketing. And I love this thing about you. So now I want to ask, uh, 1 second, I have a call. Now I want to ask, what are the problems for those who are just starting and like they can know far better, they can face these kind of problem and they can already have solution for that. And what are your
You know,
tips and tricks?
I think when someone starts a business, they want to grow immediately. They want to be known. They want, I'm putting all this time in it. I'm putting all this money in, and they are. And the truth is, it's going to be slower and harder and more problematic than you thought. You should be learning every day. I have been doing this for 25 years, which is a little overwhelming for me to say out loud, because it feels like I just started yesterday. But every day you have to learn something about yourself, about your business, about your clients. And if you don't want to, this is not the right role for you. Because, and that's really the hardest part is, you know, what can I do to be better, to be stronger, to be smarter, to, and that's really for entrepreneurs starting out, for those who have an idea in their head. Write a skeleton of a business plan. And if you're afraid, do it on a napkin. I did. I had an idea for a food business when I was I had just started this business, and I said, "Oh, I have an idea." And I wrote it on a napkin. It was a great business. And then I took some classes, to see, and I realized if I wanted this business, I'd have to work 24 hours a day to keep it afloat. I needed to have 4 different business models to be able to have a space. I probably couldn't have children because I couldn't have children and this space. And then I had to figure out, the marketing and the business and the money. I needed at the time $1 million. And I remember, I'm like, I could get $1 million. I could get the money. That was the easy part. And the hard part was, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I could get the money. I'm like, I could get the money. But it was, how do I get the other structures in place? And is this going to work for me? And I had a name for it. It was amazing. I put it in a folder and I closed that folder. It was a yellow folder and I filed it somewhere. It must be here in storage. And years later, I saw that a similar business in People Magazine by these 2 moms. And I was like, well, look at them. Good for them. And for years, I've helped others build not the same concept of the business, but parts of it. I've learned. So I think what's really important, again, know your authenticity. It's not about, I got a website. I got to get a website. No. It's about really, what's your message? Who are you? Why are they about you? And if they're not, what are you doing? Where you want to go? And I think that is the number one piece of advice I can give to an entrepreneur starting. It's gonna be hard. You need to trip and fall to learn. Babies do not learn how to crawl until they know how to roll over, and they don't know how to get up. And if you're not sleeping through the night, as a baby, you don't know how to put yourself back to sleep. It's a self-soothing thing. Like, we're all learning for a purpose, and you know, running your business is the same way. I mean, I make mistakes all the time, but they're not mistakes. I learn things all the time. I don't see them as mistakes. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I learned that. Oh, okay. Or, oh, I don't want to learn that. I have clients that will send me things and I'm like, nope, we got to find the right person. I don't want to do that. That's not making me the best person I could be. And that's really important. Knowing who you are so you're not trying to be who you're not. Yeah. I think that makes sense. It makes sense to me.
Yes, you completely make sense. Now we are at the stage that I don't want to be. Um, what are your final thoughts? Your tips that are any personal advice, or you can even summarize all the things if you want.
I think the most important thing, whether it's, how to build a strong brand identity or, creating content that, converts or reaching different, target audiences, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent, or how to use marketing as you're growing your business, is really based upon, how do you have fun? How are you going to grow? What are you looking to do? So that you don't hate it all. I think that is, because if you dislike something, you're not going to do it. And if you don't like to do it, it's not going to get done. So I think it's so important to know who you are, practice, um, have really good people working with you. I mean, I have a team. I create websites with a gentleman. I met him through a client many years ago. In addition to him, developing websites, he owns a vacuum store and a cleaning company in upstate New York, like real upstate. And the truth is, I wouldn't work with anyone else on a daily basis, because not only do I now know how to fix a vacuum in my own home by the sound of the motor, um, I also, have seen so much and learned so much about web development. And we are together, we look at, okay, how do we do this? What do we do? Here's a problem. And I wouldn't have met him if I didn't have a client that said, oh, I have a web guy, but I forgot I had a web guy. So you really have to be open to learning and to seeing. And I really hope that people continue to meet other people. The web is, especially since, the pandemic many years ago, we're all Zooming. No one wants to really go out. I love Zooming. I love going out because I'm able to meet people, and because I always remember what they do, what do they need, how can I help them? And that's the thing, it's all genuine. So remember who you are and what you do and why you want to do it. And it's you gotta have fun. You gotta have fun.
So finally, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Um, I would love to have you again on my show.
Anytime.
And
Anytime.